Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Soccer for Us. It is a new year. We have turned the calendar to 2026. It is also a World Cup year. The World Cup is coming home to be played here in North America, most of the matches in the US of A. And it is an exciting time, but that doesn't mean that we need to be caught up in the excitement and not be focused on goals that we need to achieve this year. So, to talk about goals and resolutions for our US national teams, it is a man who is on the short list to be the next manager at both Manchester United and Celtic. How'd you manage that? It's Thomas, aka US Keeper.
Yeah, the two big jobs open. I mean, it's incredible. I
They
don't
can't
think
afford you.
yeah, they probably couldn't. And I'm not sure I'd want either one of those. Those are pretty intense fan base. It's interesting to follow the clubs that have, legendary status and just seeing them go through their trials and tribulations under management. And I feel bad for Wilfred Nance. I mean, he definitely did great things in the MLS, and to see it just not come together. But I think coming into a team mid-season is it's we've seen it before. Bob Bradley did it.
Hmm.
It's just not a successful endeavor for a lot of these coaches to try to pick up the pieces built from another manager and
Hmm.
and and try to turn it around. It sometimes it's successful, but I think I just think it's difficult. And he'll find a job somewhere sooner rather than later. Manchester, United. I mean, they've had decades of success there. They're just definitely in some transition. I don't know what they'll do short or long term, but it's hopefully that guy gets to cut his hair at some point. It's
Oh man, yes. Well, a happy New Year to you. I hope the holidays were great to you and the family. But we, I think, get the biggest gift of all coming up in June this year. Look, we are officially in a World Cup year. The excitement is there. Is there any bit of angst that's crept in yet?
a little bit. I mean, I think you're any World Cup you're excited for. Clearly, the one in the United States, it's a different feel. It brings back similar feelings to 1994 to me, and then when I was a teenager, and I remember that one very well. And it's starting to feel a little bit like that. It's that like
Hmm.
excitement, but also just like the anticipation of that. Like to me, it's to show in this tournament, right? Like we did it in '94. We played, against, made it all the way to the knockout stage, which for 24 teams is kind of a big deal. And then you played Brazil pretty competitively, right? In a 1-0 loss. And so to me, you know, we need to see more this time around. And I get nervous because as the resident soccer expert or pundit or whatever you want to call me, in my family group, my friend group, my parent group, I get a million questions about things that I can't really explain to people in general. Why
Yeah.
this, why that? It's challenging. I'm sure you get it as well, and it's one of those things where I don't know, it's just challenging. It's challenging to try to defend it and explain
Mhm.
that, and it's like, well, it just shouldn't be that way. Like, because when you look at American sports on the international level, they're pretty successful in a lot of the areas, a lot of the
Mhm.
team sports over, you know, decade to decade to decade. They win gold, silver. They're medaling a lot of the times. Soccer's just not there
Yeah.
on the men's side, and I think that's we get a million questions about why this, why that, and
Yeah.
and I don't have great answers and responses to that.
I would love to not have that conversation for the next decade after this because we do good job at the World Cup. Which I think this sounds like maybe a cop out. I think a quarterfinal berth is a pretty good run when you consider that now this is an extended knockout tournament. I don't think it's out of the like I doubt that they could make a semifinal, and that's just based on what home teams can do in a World Cup. That's not me trying to say, oh, this team good enough to make a semifinal. It's just saying you play at home, things happen for you, especially in a World Cup. But this will be one of my resolutions, right? Is U.S. soccer has to take advantage of that, and the U.S. men's national team has to take advantage of it. And it doesn't necessarily mean 100 million kids start playing soccer tomorrow, right? We I will say there was a report out that soccer is now the third most popular sport in the country. Now I'm not entirely sure how legitimate that is, but I think it's fair to say that soccer has made a lot of steps forward, despite the men's national team not being great. And to be fair, despite the women's national team not really being, um, I think, at the dominant level we've seen them in the past. Uh, but the sport is popular, right? And you have to capitalize on that. So angst for that, excitement for that as well, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think when you look at that too, right? I mean, if you look at an American team that makes a deep run in this World Cup, the excitement is going to build crazy, right? You're
Hmm.
gonna. I mean, they're U.S. Soccer is going to make what 150 million. It was reported as a result of this World Cup, just from hosting it. But you make a deep run in the tournament, you're going to make that tenfold, right, over the next 10 years in terms of what this where the sport goes, where the
Hmm.
excitement builds behind that, right, and making the right moves, right. And that's US soccer is not great at that in general. And that there's a resolution in there somewhere for US soccer as well in terms of like being able to facilitate that, um, the eyeballs and the success
Yeah.
that hopefully this team has, and benefiting from that.
Well, let's tackle two pieces of news real quick. I don't remember us talking about this on the last podcast, which came out back in 2025, but it has been announced the U.S. women's national team will play Paraguay and now Chile this month in a pair of friendlies to gear up for 2026, a World Cup qualification year, which I can rant about at a later date. The U.S. women have never played at Harder Stadium, where they were playing the second match of this against Chile. It is a 17,000 seat venue. The men did play there back in like '93. I know this isn't quite the go play in different places request we've had because Santa Barbara is, I think, very uh, look, I'm not from there, but it's the SoCal, basically LA metro area. I know it's not quite the same, but like it's close by. It's cool, right? Playing in a nice new venue.
Yeah, I mean, January friendlies are tough. I mean, the U.S. in the past, California is kind of their home in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
and we've seen that, um, as well. And I think that I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? Like I think we've you know it's kind of a home away from home a little bit for U.S. soccer. I mean, if
Yeah.
you had to say they had a home camp in the '90s, it definitely would have been played in been somewhere around the California area. So yeah, I think that they're good venues there. It's kind of replacing Camp Cupcake in my opinion, which is took you know uh,
Supposedly it's no more, but it's going to be in December, depending on
right.
which reporting you look at. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I mean that you're talking a 30-year run essentially for the January
Yeah.
camp for the men. And I'm fine with this replacing it. I think that um, this is probably more of will probably be a little bit more enjoyable soccer than what we see from the men. I don't know what who gets released. Obviously, no rosters have been announced yet, so
Yeah.
I assume we'll see um, you know a lot of familiar faces in the camp and in these matches, which will be good for Emma Hayes to get additional look at players.
Hmm.
Um, to your point, heading into World Cup qualifying in November.
Another piece of news closer to your home, the New England Revolution has reached an agreement on a stadium site in the Boston suburb of Everett, which is essentially like across the harbor from the Boston city. Uh, my bold prediction is, and I put this out on Twitter, you can follow me at Soccer for Us Pod, is that this will replace a lot of those games that we play in Ohio once the stadium is built. I just see Boston proper being a fantastic home venue for our national teams. Um, Especially since the stadium will be bigger than at least Columbus. I think it'll be just under what Cincinnati has built.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of rumors on this for many, many, many years, and then a couple weeks ago there was, I think Terrell Twellman might have led the charge on a little video that came out on this. To me,
Hmm.
um, it's a long time coming. Um, it's gonna, it's gonna be some great views in that area. I think there's gonna be better access for fans to get into it. Definitely the soccer environment that
You could fly into Boston Logan instead of having to fly into Providence, I think now, which is probably
right. And I think it's funny because I've tried very hard. US Soccer, to be clear, I have tried very hard to get to matches that aren't in my area. It's not easy. Your tickets prices are expensive. The plane prices are expensive. However, a lot of the stadiums I'm looking at, the airport is right there. I don't need to rent a car. I can take a Uber or whatever it is to the stadium, find
yeah,
local hotels in the area to do that. And I think this falls into that category
yeah,
as well. It's like a
absolutely.
pretty productive blueprint
Yeah.
for that in general. I do like that. Um, my hope too is that the Boston legacy might be able to, you know, find a
I
way
mean, who
to
knows what's
share
gonna
that.
happen with that stadium plan, by the way. White Stadium is just a cluster and a half of a I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on there.
Yeah, I'm hoping they can arrange something there because I know they're planning on playing in Gillette this season
Yeah.
as well, and that white stadium is only like 10,000 maybe in general.
Yeah, I think they're looking at maybe 11,000 total capacity once all said
Yeah,
and done. It's a terrible plan. I could rant for hours about how poorly Boston Legacy has been uh, run so far, but yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm a little disappointed on the timing of it. This would have been a great training facility for some of the local teams to practice and play
Yeah.
in general. I don't know if they'll use. I don't know what the plans are. There was rumors. There was Bowdoin College is in the town that I live in Maine, and there's I've been told by the couple coaches there that that facility is going to be used for training for the World Cup.
Wow.
So I don't know if how true
That's
that
awesome.
is. Yeah. So because they've got a couple of nice grass fields along with some turf, which I know they probably wouldn't use, but yeah, there was some rumors there. I mean, that's a long way away from Gillette, but
Yeah.
again, stranger things have happened in general. I don't know, so we'll see if that ever comes to fruition. But to have had that stadium there to be that venue would have been pretty nice. But hopefully it's coming. Hopefully it's quick. Hopefully they don't hit any roadblocks along the way, and they can break
Yeah.
ground quickly and get this thing built and do it the right way.
Well, that is the news. Let's quickly turn our attention to the reason we're here, which is to set resolutions and give predictions for our national teams in 2026. Thomas, let's start with the U.S. women. As I mentioned, this is a World Cup qualifying year. So while it's not the long haul campaign that a men's qualification process is in CONCACAF, for reasons that escape my logical brain. They do have a World Cup qualifying tournament at the end of this year. So they have essentially all year, in my opinion, to get ready and prepare for this qualification tournament. So my resolution is whittle down the player pool to the players you feel are the best while still giving out justly earned call ups. And what I mean by this is I think not that they weren't earned, but I think 2025 we saw a lot of call ups of players that were like, sure, why not? Um, and I think now that you're in a qualification year, we're now going to be, at this point, 18 months out from a World Cup. You got to start saying, okay, this is the data we have. How do we put it to use? And I think it has to be you go, okay, well, not really. This player didn't really pan out the way we thought that she would. We'll put her in the maybe category. Start filtering people into the yeah. These are the players I actually want to call up.
Yeah, that's kind of in line with the one I have too. I mean, I think it's the looking at the depth and figuring out who the starters are going to be. I think there's a lot of question marks as it relates to a few of the players who are coming off maternity leave. Whether Mallory Swanson and oh, what's her new name? I'm
Sophia
sorry,
Wilson.
Sophia Wilson.
Wilson. Yeah,
So many name changes with this group.
I know.
My daughter and I are like, trying to learn them all. It is very challenging, but but happy for them, obviously. But I think those things, are going to be telling, right?
Hmm.
Can Mallory come back? Can Sophia come back? Can they earn their spots back? Can they
Mm,
fight for the position? Because I think what we have seen in that time they've been gone is that there are players that are capable of filling those
mhm,
roles, and I think that in developing that depth, I mean, if you have them at their expected form, a hopeful form that they left with coming into uh, the qualifying, coming into the year of the World Cup, I mean, this team is going to be stacked,
yeah,
right? But they have to
yeah,
figure out the roles. They have to understand the roles, and that's part of it, right? It's Emma Hayes saying, "Hey, this is the role that you're taking on. This is where we need you because we do have some older
mhm,
players on this roster. Lindsay Heaps, she's in her early 30s. Emily Sonnet, she's 30 in her early 30s as well. Like this is probably the last run for those players, um, in the group here. So she's relied on a lot of those players, um, but she also has to kind of look to fill the back end with some of this younger talent that we've seen and over the last few windows, and hopefully um, it can just be a nice transition, and that's the key,
mhm,
right? That transition is key because we hadn't seen that. Obviously under Vladko, he struggled a little bit and with doing that, and but Emma Hayes has not done that, and so for her first cycle to be a success, winning that World Cup is what it's going to need to be, and she's going to have to do whatever she has to do to make that happen.
funny you mention Haran, now Heaps, and Emily Sonnet, because they play into my prediction. I predict that Lindsay Heaps and Emily Sonnet will be left off the World Cup qualifying roster.
Really, I mean, the Sonnets that wouldn't be surprised to me. Lindsay would because there's definitely
I'm being
a
bold. I'm being bold.
yeah, no, and that's I think that's I don't I mean it could happen for other reasons, unrelated to the form. Who knows? But Heaps is a tough one for me because you just see how close she is, but you can definitely tell you she's a half step slower, right? With some of these pieces. I mean, she does certain things well,
Yeah.
but she's gone from an attacking midfielder to more of a holding midfielder in terms of her speed and the things that she's doing out there,
Yeah.
right? It's a little bit of
Yeah.
her role has is changed. She's dropping back. She's more of a six or an eight, as opposed to that attacking piece of it. And I think that is something that is going noticed. At least I'm noticing it. It just reminds me of Steven Gerrard, right? Like she's kind of when I look at it, I'm like the similar paths in terms of that.
Yeah.
He is still effective for a very long time as he played back, but his
Yeah.
his game changed, and maybe it just evolves there. Um, but yeah, there's some yeah. I mean that's a bold prediction. I Sonnet wouldn't surprise me. I think there are definitely players that could fill in there, and there's definitely some quality players that could take Lindsay's
Yeah.
spot too. So
I mean, part of this really is, and I think you hinted at it. There's a lot of quality that we've seen this past year. And I know 2025 was probably not a banner year for the women based on what you would think they would do, but like given all of the trials and experimentation, the fact that they put up a pretty darn good record. I mean, we just saw what they did to Italy, the European semifinalists. So it just wouldn't surprise me if, as Emma looks at again the data she's collected on all of these players, she goes, "I think player X can step into this role." You know?
yeah, and as much as I want to see certain players because I love watching them play. I think it's the you go back to the Alex Morgan being left off the Olympic roster, right? I think that's what we look at is Emma Hayes. Can she do that again? If it's needed, right? If she truly
Mhm.
feels it's in the best interest of the team, would she leave off Lindsay? Would she leave off Emily?
Yep.
It's on it, for that. And I think that's
Yep.
that's what makes coaches great when they have to make that tough choice and then go out there and explain it, right? I mean, we saw Alex Morgan's not a surprise. I would have loved it if she had been on that team and been able to get a gold medal and finished. That
Absolutely.
I mean, that would have been a great way for her to end her national team career. Um, but it just the timing wasn't there. She did not
Yeah.
have what, and she knew it, and she knew it too. And part of the reason why she retired when she did because that was part of it, right? She knew her
Yep.
time was done, and she was not willing to do the hard lift that was going to need to be done
Yeah.
at her age, in her,
Yeah.
and to be able to do that. And so that's hard for a player, and I think it's hard for a coach.
Do you have a prediction for the women's national team this year?
you know, a prediction. I mean, I really, I really, I guess my prediction is this. I think we're going to see. I guess I'm hopeful we're going to see domination in qualifying, which again is very different qualifying.
Mm,
Um, and but different players being the ones who dominate,
yeah.
right? Players that we've seen over the last year, like Alyssa Thompson come through and be like, oh wow, like look out, Sophia Smith, look out, Mallory Schwanson, you've got your hands full, like trying to earn your spot back, which is good. We want that competition.
Was almost my resolution was be the dominant team again. It's just hard because, and I mean this with all due respect to the CONCACAF nations, I think CONCACAF has some pretty good soccer teams on the women's side. Like I do think that, but Canada and Mexico just aren't at that level the way we thought they were. Now we saw in the W Gold Cup, Mexico did beat the U.S. in that group match. U.S. needed penalties and a heroic performance by Alyssa Nair to get past Canada in the semifinal in a match that shouldn't have been played at the time it was played. Um, but I'm with you. Like I think what Emma is building is an opportunity for an Alyssa Thompson, a Kat Macario, even at like a Sam Coffey. Maybe not at like that type of player to be dominant. I love that because it kind of also it's a prediction. Like it also needs to happen. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the evolution of this team has to continue moving forward, and these players have to come in and continue that winning tradition
Yeah.
in general when in when it matters. And so that's what that's what I'm hopeful to
Yeah.
see. So well, I'm excited
This
for
is a
November. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like I think it's more exciting because we don't truly know the 11 by any stretch. Like we have a guess of like, oh, well, okay, if she's healthy, she's here, right? But I mean, even then, it's like I don't know. Like Naomi Gurma's my starting center back. Sam Coffey's my starting six. Pat McCongo for me is my starting striker. But like, what if Sophia Wilson's healthy and scoring a bunch of goals in NWSL?
Well, right. That's the thing. I mean, and so and that's where when you have a lot of tools in your toolbox, that's where like I want to see what Emma Hayes does, right? Like she's got to
Yeah.
start having some consistency with these lineups, and she's look, I've loved what she's done in these windows. She's looked at a
Yes.
lot of players,
100%. Yes.
and that's the things we want from the men's side, right? Hey, take these windows. Okay, you lose a couple, right? That's fine, but you're trying things out that didn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Now it's starting to matter, right? Now you have you've got a runway. Now start bringing in the players. Start seeing consistent lineups. Start seeing proper sub. Try different substitution patterns and see what
Mhm.
works because you've done plenty of experimenting in the last year.
And I will just say this, I don't know if this is a resolution or not, but, like, it would be awesome if one of the goalkeepers said, "This is my job." That'd be kinda awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Um,
and
that would be great. Real quick to kinda run through the calendar because I think this is, important for just the generic, like, so we know what's heads up. We mentioned CONCACAF qualifying is in November, at the end of November, early December, right? We have the January period window that we already know about. Um, we will get two friendlies. Excuse me. I think we can have up to three, depending on how they do She Believes Cup this year. In that February March window, um, we'll have up to three friendlies in the April window. June we'll have two friendlies. I'm not sure what's going to happen there to be honest, because those dates are like right before the World Cup. Um, I'm not sure how U.S. Soccer is going to want to do that. I know that look they are hiring a bunch of people, great people. I've met some of them, but like it's a lot of manpower. Planning a U.S. women's friendly while a World Cup's coming to your home, and then you have friendlies in October before you get to the qualifying. So there are windows to your point of like, okay, yes, we can still bring in some players, but like let's focus on the players that we think are going to get us qualified to the World Cup.
Yeah, and maybe those matches you can play on the road too, right? I mean,
I
you know,
really would hope they do.
yeah. I mean, they kind of need it a little bit too. That's the one thing too. Like they play. I mean, everyone wants to play here for the women's side, but it might help them to play some tough
Mhm.
matches over in Europe or South America. To kind of get a little bit of a challenge and a little bit of
Yeah.
a diverse crowd or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we'll see.
Looking now at the men's side of things, Thomas, it's a World Cup year, and weirdly enough, neither my resolution or prediction necessarily tie into the World Cup. One, because I'll make predictions for the World Cup when we get there. But two, I think the World Cup is a stage for bigger things to happen. So my resolution is to let the fans love you truly, madly, and deeply. I feel like for the past couple years, this team has just been like, I don't know, not connecting with the fans, right? Be it because, Pulisic and McKinney and all the stars decide they don't want to play half the time or, you know, can't play half the time. Or they're just moderately okay, you know? Just do something that makes the fans fall in love with you again. That could be a quarter or semifinal run at the World Cup. It could just be some great performances or a moment like we had with Diego Luna last year. Give me a couple moments like that. Give me I mean that's all I'm thinking of. It's just give us a reason. Not us, not me and you. Give the country a reason to love this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great one because I want to love this team, and so like I think back to 2014, right? I wanted to want to love that team, but when you took Donovan out of it, that took the wind out of my sails as a passionate
Mm,
fan, right? Let's not do like I mean, he's going to choose who he's going to choose, but like if for whatever reason Pulisic was left off, a healthy Pulisic is left off. I mean, that would be a gut punch, right? And knowing him, there's going to be a couple snubs on this roster. Hopefully, not ones that like take the wind out of your sails, right? And so, to me, you have to want to love it. You can't be American and not want this team to succeed. There's too many teams in the tournament to say, and if you're an American, like you want to see them do something. You want to be excited about it. You want to fall in love with it. And there's so many great stories around this group and how things have evolved that fans want it. They want it so bad, right?
yes.
And I'm one of them. I want it so badly. I just want that deep run. I want it. I just
Hmm.
want to have the hope, and that hey, anything can happen in a game, right? In a one that really matters, um, deep in the tournament, right? On home soil, like with millions of people watching, millions of Americans cheering and watching, right? And so, and because we all come together. I mean, we talk about, Pochettino talks about the 1980 hockey. I've said this for a long time. If this U.S. soccer team's ever to win something, they're going to have to go on a run of that nature, right? And and
Right.
so,
Right.
right, they're going to have to make these huge wins, and this kind of ties into my resolution, right? About don't just compete, beat the elite. They need to beat elite teams, right? Because that's going to send another message to the world, right? And so, in beating elite teams, they're going to propel themselves to the next level. And so, they have to beat elite teams, right? I
Hmm.
want to, obviously, in this March window, they play some leading into it, but you got to do it when it counts in tournament play, in knockout stage, where the eyeballs are on you.
Hmm. Honestly, that's my prediction, is that we will beat one of Portugal, Belgium, or Germany in these upcoming friendlies. I'm not sure about Senegal, if that's like no offense to Senegal, I think they're actually a good team, and if we beat them, I will be ecstatic. But, like, in terms of oh my gosh, building hype before the World Cup, right? Beating one of Portugal, Belgium, and Germany, that would be massive, right? You absolutely cannot get swept. I'll say that much. But my prediction is you'll beat one of them. Um, I would love to get a win and a draw, and then maybe you beat or draw Senegal. You know?
Yeah, I think you have to do that. It's a balance of it. Like I don't want to see them get blown. Like it's that weird like motivation factor, right? Like I definitely
No,
want to
the
see them win
Germany
one
game we
and
played, what, 2023? Yeah. Pulisic scores a banger, but we lose 2-1. You're like, well, yeah, Germany's really good. But hey, this was that was fun for a little bit. Like,
right.
do that, but like win or like not lose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I think, and again, you want to feel good about the match, win or lose. I mean, well, if you lose and it's a one goal match, you're like, geez, we had our chances. Like
Yeah.
they,
Right.
right, like that's gonna make you feel good about those matches. Like losing 4-0, nah, that's not great. Like you know what I mean? Like, and so we can't have that either. And I mean, we're kind of, it's okay to build, I guess, to that. I mean, if you're following the 1980 hockey, men's hockey, Olympic team, I mean, they did get smoked by by Russia, days before they kicked off
I
the
was about to
tournament.
say, like,
So
they played a scrimmage, like, what, the week before?
yeah,
Got
the week
the doors
before.
blown
So
off them, yeah.
right. So and so maybe that's something in general that motivates them in general. But
Yeah.
yeah, they definitely have to show signs, um, for the full 90, in these
Yeah.
matches that they can compete and beat those elite teams. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I did have a second one on this only because
Ooh, okay.
I feel that it is definitely a glaring error area that we still haven't seen with a team that I still think have some immaturity is just when we talk about clarifying the leadership, like identifying on-field leaders
Mhm.
for this group, like who's going to be those leaders, who's the captain of this team, because as much as I love certain players and what they can do on the field, that doesn't make them a leader and make them a captain. Like Pulisic's great in what he does. I don't feel he's a captain, right? Richards, question mark. Adams, he's got to be healthy and playing, right? So who fills that leadership role, or individuals, but who's going to step up and do that? And so that's what I think we need to see from this group. Um, I'm leaning towards Chris Richards in general, but we'll see. I mean, what Pochettino does, because he's kind of passed that armband around quite a bit. And no offense to Tim Ream, I don't want to see him be captain again. I think we need to kind of pass that torch to one of these players that are in or entering their prime and likely to be a starter on this team, obviously, um, for the duration of the World Cup.
That is yeah, I think that's gonna be something that, weirdly enough, can also help with the building excitement and whatnot because the captain, um, is going to be a face of the team, right? And this is why I'm really don't want Christian Pulisic to be the captain, to be quite honest. He's already the face of the team. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's a great captain, to be blunt. I mean, I'm not there, so I don't like fully know. But I just look at the team and I go, Chris Richards has been an actual leader. You know, Tyler Adams has a lot of leadership qualities, and we know Pulisic is going to be there. So I don't think I need him to be the captain.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and this is something I talk to my daughter all the time. She wants to be sort of type of leader, and you lead in different ways, right? You lead by action, you lead by your words, you lead by example. And I think talent, let the talent be the talent. Don't add another level of stress for them to have to
Mm,
fill this other role that maybe is just not personality wise within them, right? Don't add this other, because that player already has certain things that he's leading in, but maybe it's not the rah rah, pick up people by
mm-hmm,
their bootstraps type of thing, right? And
mm-hmm.
so that's when if you look at the great leaders in the history for the men, look that have captains, you got Bocanegra, Michael Bradley, Tony Miola, like they had a different type of, you know, aura of them, right? That made them that great leader. And again, I think Chris Richards falls into that. I think Tyler Adams falls into that. Um, You know, the who knows if there's a sleeper in there that we're not thinking of. I don't know if an Anthony Robinson, or I mean, I don't typically like to get a goalkeeper as a captain. I think they kind of have their own leadership um, built into kind of managing the defense. So I usually like to be a field player in that's playing in the middle of the field
I'm with
a,
you.
l- a little bit. But I mean, that's just my thoughts on that. But yeah, I think that one's going to be huge. I think that this team has to remain composed. They cannot have moments, Tim Weah, where you punch someone in the head because they took your goalie out, and you can't have that. You can't have a Serginho Dest moment. You cannot afford to lose these the quality you have because you can't keep your composure together in moments that aren't going the way you want, right? And we're talking, these are professional players, these are adults, right? They have to figure out how to hold that in general, and you have to have that leader out there that's going to help settle the team down in those moments and do it quickly and be concise about it.
Moving on then. Let's talk about US Soccer because I think this is an inflection point for the program, the federation, both programs. To be quite honest, I think the women can benefit a lot from this as well, not just the men. But more importantly, I think this is an inflection point for soccer in this country. And we have bemoaned that this feels like it's being stolen from us because it's being priced out of the regular fans' ability to access it. There are reports that there will be fees to enter a fan zone, and it's like $20, which is insane. They've never done that before. FIFA has never had fan zones be charged, or be charge admission for fan zones. So that's a problem. But there are opportunities here for U.S. Soccer. They cannot let this slip by, and I think our fear is that based on some of the actions they've been making or inactions they've been taking, is that they might do that. So, with that said, what's your resolution for U.S. Soccer this year?
I mean, they have to look at this kind of like they did in '94 as a launch pad, not the peak of anything. It's a launching pad for the next phase of it, right? You look at 2028 hosting the Olympics, right? It's a minor tournament for the women's team, right? For the men's, it's kind of what it is. And then who knows when they host it, right? Are they going to host in 31? Maybe they're put the bid in, right? And so you have to have it as a launch point. So you have to have the tournament go well. But again, U.S. Soccer is limited in terms of what they can do, but they have to do that in a way that's transparent to the fans, transparent to the decision making in general, right? They've made a lot of bad decisions along the way. Um, and I understand they don't have to be transparent, but fans kind of want that. They want to understand the vision a little bit of what you're trying to do because they're buying into that. We're spending money on
Mhm.
kits and we're spending money on tickets. So I think you have to kind of consider the fans when you do this because you don't want to lose your fan base. Like, you know, we just talked about in 10 has been down, right? And you can make whatever excuse you want about that. But if you're successful, that is the launching pad for the next 10 years, right? Until or 7 or 8 years until you host the next World Cup and see what it comes from there. Because, I mean, there's rumors of another Copa America coming to the United States. I can see, I mean, I have a hard time seeing where they're not going to have another World Cup in the United States. I think they're going to have one in another 20 or 24 years for the men. I really do. I think it'll be back sooner than it was from
I
between
think
now and
we're
that.
looking at least 2 decades, or no more than 2 decades, I should say. I agree
Yeah.
with that.
I mean, the way they're running these out now, the rule, and they may change the rules in terms of the confederations that
They
get it.
truly may. I mean, I could see them truly reevaluating it because it makes no sense.
I mean, and FIFA is greedy. We know they're greedy. I mean, clearly, and they know how much money in the proper timing. 20 years is, I think, reasonable. Um, to kind of hit it again, right? And you're talking. I mean, I don't know what the revenue is going to be. The numbers are on everything is going to blow the doors off the numbers in '94. To be clear,
I
that
mean,
was
part of that is just the admission price, but yes.
yeah, but yeah, right. But the attendance is going to. If you don't even
Yeah.
look at the sales figures, just look at attendance. You look at the viewership. I mean, obviously, and everything's doubled from 1994, right? Double the teams, double the matches. Like it's massive, and so they're greedy, and if they hit it in a somewhat ethical way, unlike Qatar and probably Saudi Arabia, right? They're gonna come back and they're gonna want more of it because they're gonna create that demand. So 20, 24 years
Mhm.
is not a stretch to have another World Cup here in the United States. And trust me, we have the infrastructure. We can, if we had to fill in for another country, we could do it very quickly because it's already here. There's nothing that has to be built along the way,
I
which
mean,
makes it.
that is absolutely the positive that this is where I do wonder what FIFA is gonna end up doing because one of the things that I actually think that the International Olympic Committee has done decently okay in the past decade is not trying to put undue stress on a host nation or a host city. That's why we've seen a lot of the Olympics in the past. Like, I mean, Tokyo, Paris, LA, right? Like those are all cities that don't need much preparation to host the world and have the facilities for the most part to deal with it. I think Brisbane in 2032 is probably the one that's the most far fetched of the ones coming up. But like, I mean, even Milan Cortina coming up. By the way, we're in a Winter Olympics year in February. I almost wonder if FIFA's going to kind of not have a rotation, but like, are they really going to go out and be like, how many Qatars are we seeing after this? You know, because obviously Qatar and Saudi Arabia are because of money. We get that. But let's be real honest. They're not really hosting the World Cup in 2030 in Argentina's Paraguay, Uruguay, right? Those are here you go, a celebration thing. It's being played in Spain. I wonder how much of that's going to happen going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have your your secondary host nations essentially, because I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, you're seeing that. I mean, to me, I think you're gonna see, you could do a Great Britain one. England will obviously be the primary one.
absolutely.
I think that's a no-brainer. I think Australia, New Zealand is another no-brainer. Um, at some point, sooner rather than later. So I think
I honestly wouldn't be shocked if we see like a West Africa one. If you're talking about multiple nations, you have some,
right.
especially looking at a lot of the newer stadiums in that area of the world, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think when you look at
China,
that,
I'm shocked China hasn't hosted a men's World Cup, by the way. That still blows my mind. I mean, I get in a sense kind of maybe why, but like
yeah,
they've hosted two women's World Cup perfectly fine.
that's true. That's true. I mean, and that fall, yeah, who knows, how that process works. I'm not sure they've even put the bid in, honestly. I
I don't
can't
think they
remember
have
the
either, really.
yeah. And so maybe that's part of it. If they're not putting the bid in, I mean, FIFA's not going to chase it down necessarily
Yeah. I mean,
unless it's
it's
built.
shocking to me that they haven't, right? They've hosted
Yeah,
a winter and a summer Olympics, but they haven't tried for a men's World Cup. That seems like a no-brainer to me to like, yeah. Anyway, what do I know?
yeah. I'm not a fan of the Asian World Cups. It's too the kickoffs are too early.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm an early one. Well, Australia would be nuts. I have no idea what those would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so I think that it's the launching point. And they have to make sure they do that to
Yeah.
kind of set it up along the way, right? They've got a lot of things going on. You've got to continue that run and be successful. We've kind of been a little, and some of it's out of their control, right? And so, in FIFA doing some of the stuff they're doing, U.S. Soccer, people are like, well, why is U.S. Soccer has something to do with this stuff? Like, they
They
just
have
don't,
no control over these ticket
right?
prices.
They don't. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'd love to blame them too, but like they don't have those controls there, and they're at the mercy of FIFA, and they're running the ship. We're just we're the place where the venue is being held, right? And so, um, yeah,
Now to that point, this is my resolution for US soccer. Put the pressure on soccer bodies to reduce ticket prices of events here in the US by setting the example. Because if you look at the friendlies here in Atlanta specifically in March, now they priced the tickets a little lower for the Belgium match, partially because I think they well, that's mostly to do because of the Atlanta United thing, where the Atlanta United season ticket holders are getting their season tickets, and so like it would be crazy to charge more than an Atlanta United season ticket holder would like in theory pay for theirs. But that's for the Belgium match. If you look at the ones for the Portugal match, $170, $170 for at the top level at 300 level. That's just stupid. I'm just gonna. I mean, that's just stupid. Um, I understand wanting to maximize profit. I truly do. Get out of here with that nonsense. That is not maximizing profit, right? Because the problem is you're not maximizing profit for the long run. You're cashing in on one game day. And even then, you're struggling to sell out. The numbers are clear. As you've mentioned, we have gone through it. Last episode, US men's attendance was down very poorly this past year. And any big attendance number only came because of Mexico. And even those Mexico games, mind you, were poorly attended comparatively. You have to be the ones that say, man, this is just not a fan first strategy. This is not growing the game. This is making us money. And you have to figure out which one you want. And making money isn't growing the game. It's just not.
Yeah, and we've discussed it. I just think there's a way to do both. I think there's a way to maximize your
Yeah.
money and
But
maximize
again, we're
attendance.
talking $170 for a 300 level ticket. Like, this is insane.
Yeah, yeah, and again, if they were selling out all these other matches leading up to that, I'd be okay. I'm fine with that, right? You're hopefully Ronaldo's there. Obviously, you're playing a great Portugal team. Like, I get it, but you're not though, right? You haven't done that. You haven't like guided them to that. And again, and that's a lot of money for a friendly, right? You know what I mean? To sit in that section. Um, I mean, and that's not second market, and that's I think the challenge with that is what they see is when the second tier, third tier market, and when they're trying to get that money up front, like ahead of it. It's like I know it's a
Not your
challenge. I
job.
yeah, I mean they've got to have someone that can do the math on that to say, look, this is what we want to get out of this venue. I mean, hopefully they sell out and it's what 70,000, whatever the capacity is there. Um, but you've got to get fans excited about this. You've got to get fans wanting to go and saying, I can't miss this opportunity. One, because I don't know when they're coming back next, right? And create that urgency, create that sort of thing. Like, and I've said this for a long time. They missed an opportunity this cycle with not having qualifiers where they could have rolled out these. I tell you, they'll do it at some point because I'm sure someone's listening. But having a special edition kit at these matches, a historical kit. You don't have to do it every match, but you create that. You create that urgency. I got to get there. That's the only place the kit's being sold. There's only 100 of each size,
Yeah.
right? And and then have them sell them, and you're going to get a different fan base in there, right? In general, um, and you're pulling in new people. And to me, I don't think they make enough in this World Cup, based on what we're hearing for the figures to that they'll do that. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Hopefully, they'll realize that. But what's going to happen is the men will make a deep run. They're like, yeah, we can get more money of the fans. We charge more. You know what I mean? Like it's right. Like they haven't learned anything from 2017. U.S. Soccer hasn't changed how they do things in 50 years, 60 years. Like they've been doing the things the same way. Again, living the insanity life of trying to figure it out, and they just can't do that. They're not smart enough to realize that they're killing it as opposed to embracing it. Because you've got some passionate fans that would spend money, that are spending money, but they would spend even more.
I'll fact check myself real quick because when I went to buy tickets, they were 177-ish dollars. They are now the lowest ticketed price is $222, still in the 300 level section. I'll give them some credit. Most of the tickets have been sold, so I think you're looking at a pretty well attended match of a 71,000 seat stadium. But still, I'm just wondering, like 71,000 seats, you're not gonna make any money off of that? Come on now. But what do I know?
Well, they probably have to pay Portugal to come here, according to U.S. Soccer's
Yeah,
report.
yeah. Oh, man. The prediction for US Soccer is that it will be announced that the National Training Center will host a major youth international tournament by 2030. Specifically, I think they'll host the next CONCACAF youth tournament, basically, probably, whatever it's 20s or 17s. I would imagine they will host that tournament there. And that's because looking at what FIFA has done with the U17 World Cup most recently, where they basically played all one complex with some stadium fields. I think they realized that was kind of nice.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice because I don't think the U.S. has ever hosted a youth World Cup,
No,
and
no.
I think that area would be ideal. I mean, travel in and out.
Hmm.
I don't know how many field complexes they're creating, but it's got to be plenty to
Yeah.
support it.
Yeah, and I think the main thing I say about this is just because when you look at the turnout for youth tournaments, it just never justifies playing in some of these big soccer stadiums. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. Um, If you really wanted to get fancy, you could there's a 12,000 seat stadium just north of the city that the Atlanta United 2 team play in. You could play the final there, right?
Yeah.
Sure. But to me, looking at what FIFA has done with the Youth World Cups, the 17 specifically playing at like one facility with some stadium fields, which is nice, but like one big facility, it just makes too much sense to me. It really does, and it wouldn't shock me if CONCACAF sees that and be like, oh, we got to pay for travel for all these teams. They just stay in a couple hotels nearby or whatever. That sounds great.
Yeah, it's and I think it's makes total sense. I mean, it
Yeah.
makes total sense. So that I think that's a valid prediction on that.
Do you have a U.S. soccer prediction? Overarching, program wide, whatever you want to. I mean, however you want to go with that, you can.
Ah, geez, that's I had a hard time with this one because I don't U.S. soccer just disappoints so much. I mean, with me in general. So
Setting
I think my
yourself up for disappointment.
yeah, I think I don't have a specific prediction, but I think my overall thought is I think U.S. soccer is going to do something that's going to um I think it's going to put things in a better direction as it relates to maybe the youth program, um, or pay to play something. They're going to figure out something you know that we fans have been asking for a while to maybe
Mm,
help with the youth program. You know what I mean? I think because I think I think that when we see it both from the men's and women's side, I think we do see some gaps there. Um,
mm.
and I think there's an opportunity for them to do something in those areas that are going to help. I don't know if it's again from a financial perspective or from a development perspective, but
Yeah.
help in that area to help grow it a little bit better. Because I mean, they both struggle in kind of different ways a little bit. Um,
I mean, I will say, isn't that kind of the point of the National Training Center? Like having a true home base for coaches and training, and I mean, isn't that the point in theory?
Well, I mean, it's the point. I mean, U.S. Soccer, required at one point for its coaches to all live in Chicago, right? Because
Yeah.
that synergies that exist between the different coaches and sharing that sort of thing.
But you
And
never trained or played in Chicago.
well, right, and so this move makes more sense because you're going to have a training facility, you're going to have access, you're going to be able to get in and out of the area quickly,
Right.
easily if you need to come in for 2 days or whatever it is. And I think that's where um, they have the right mindset. It's how they execute it going forward, though, right? It's
Mm,
it's it's how they're going to be able to position themselves to you know do the right things, make the right choices, so you can have it bear the fruit um, of that success.
all right. Well, we have hit all of those. I do have a bonus one, if you're ready to play along. Any player do you have a resolution for this year? Men's or women's team?
Oh, men's or women's. I gotta. I'm going back and forth on this for on the men's side. I did have a women's player as well in mind, but um, I mean, an easy one is Gio Reyna, but I want to say Weston McKinney. Like I
Keep
want.
playing soccer.
Right. Well, yeah, but I want to say Weston McKinney. Like we've seen it with his club level. I I think on the biggest stage he's gonna do some great things. Right? He's going to take it to that next level. He's gonna have a big
Mm,
moments, not one moment, but multiple, right? And so I of course I don't know where he fits in, right, with this formation and stuff. So because he can play a lot of different spots. I just think he's gonna have multiple moments and that's going to propel him kind of to the next level and
yeah.
he's going to have teams that are knocking down his door to get his services at the club level after the World Cup. And I can just see him, hopefully he can make the right choices in behaviors and habits to maximize
Mm,
on that and continue playing at a high level because these players are in their prime. They're in it right now. And you have another, you could have a stretch of if you do well in this World Cup, it doesn't translate to the next one necessarily, but you can have a stretch where you've got these players in their primes, and you could have two runs of quality World Cups over the next, you know, 4 years.
Did you see the slight Twitter, not like feud by any stretch, but it was between Kirk Gomez and let's see if I can find it. I want to say Brian Sciaretta um talking about um Wes McKinney. And I need to make sure it's Sciaretta who said it. I'm like 97% sure it was. So hold on. This is bad radio. I apologize. I'm looking for this, but your point made me think of this. um, let's see if he has it. Okay. Doug McIntyre. Sorry, it was Doug McIntyre said, uh, his quote said, I said it before, we'll say it again. With all due respect to Michael Bradley, Todd Ramos, and Claudio Reyna, Weston McKinney is the best midfielder in USMNT history. And Hercules Gomez said that's false. Listed a lot of things about, USMNT careers and club careers are different. Okay, if we're getting into that, maybe you can argue that there were better midfielders. I mean, Michael Bradley was a great midfielder for the U.S. national team, despite what people want to say. But like, I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to deny what Weston McKinney has done at club level throughout his entire career.
Yeah, the club level speaks for themselves, and I think that's where the resolution comes in, where it's, he needs to and will perform at a high level at the World Cup. He's got to have that big, he's got to have those big moments on the international stage, right? And so
That
when you
part,
look at those other players, like Bradley and Ramos, like those guys had huge moments with the national team. I mean, and that's what Ramos all he really had at that point, because MLS wasn't really there until after, but he had huge moments, right? And so. Um, and the resume's there, right? The
yeah.
resume's there for it to happen, right? And so it's just a matter of getting in the right position and executing.
I do think his USMNT career is a little bit dulled by the fact that, and we've talked about this many times, he doesn't play in Gold Cups. He's only played in one.
Well,
Um,
right, yeah, and I think
and part of that is just I think that Tab and Claudio and Michael Bradley, like they played in a Gold Cup because like duh, they had to. Um, I think I would like for our players to get back to playing Gold Cups. But what do I know? I think they should play for their national team. That's just my opinion. But I don't know, man. Even that, he's got a lot of goals for the national team, more than Tab, more than Claudio.
oh, for sure. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah.
So it's I think that's the player in mind I had for the men.
Wes is the guy who I do not think he's captain material, but he needs to be a leader. And his job as leader is to do cool shit.
Right. When I think of Weston, I think of players. I think of players a little bit. I mean, well, Jermaine Jones comes to mind, right? As that type of like energy guy, that type of like,
Yeah.
like that's the like Jones just was he did what he needed to do. He had this energy about him. He had just this I don't think recklessness, but maybe it's recklessness about him that that really helped propel this team.
Yeah.
He had I mean that freaking goal against Portugal. I mean, you want to talk about a great moment.
Yeah.
I mean that was unbelievable, right? Like those are the moments, right? And he's a player that I wish had played more, right? Like I wish
Yeah.
we would have had him at, he was
Man,
injured
yeah.
at the 2010 World Cup. He hadn't committed, but I think if he was healthy, he would have committed and played. And imagine
Yeah.
that 2010 World Cup having a healthy Jermaine Jones on it. I mean, that team was good already. To have him on there, replacing Clark, and as a whole, there would be two World Cups with Bradley and Jermaine would have been amazing. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Man, that would have been yeah. Oof. Oh man, that would have been good. My resolution, I have two, and they both kind of fall into the same category-ish. So my big resolution, I think, is players that need to play minutes. Okay. But they're all in different forms. Yunus Musa is number one because if he wants to make this World Cup, he's got to start playing more at Atalanta. Um, and I think he's moving into that. That's good. Second is Jen and Eiswanger. She went to Arsenal, and I think they forgot that she existed. And so she needs to find a move this winter transfer window to a place she'll play. I don't know if she needs to come back to NWSL necessarily. I still think she has a lot of quality and talent that could work in either WSL or Europe as a whole, but she needs to go somewhere where she will be playing. If she wants to, if she is still a good enough soccer player, let's just put it that way. And the last one is Cole Campbell, who today it was announced he'll get a move to Hoffenheim from Dortmund. And my goal for Cole Campbell is he needs to have more than 800 minutes for Hoffenheim, excuse me, by the end of 2026. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but this is still a young guy. I don't know what Hoffenheim is buying him for. 800 minutes is not a lot, like it truly isn't. But seeing as he's coming in now with half a season, and basically he'll have half a season next year, if you're looking at a full season of minutes, that would be at like around 3,000. So I'm going for less than a third of the for minutes for Cole Campbell just because he's still young, but I want him to move into actually playing for Hoffenheim. Hopefully by this time next year we're talking about Cole Campbell as a guy who is a regular contributor or participant at least in Hoffenheim matches. So those are it's like a big resolution, but for three different people for different reasons.
Yeah, I think those are all good. I mean, they're the Cole Campbell one is definitely one. Um,
It's
you know,
exciting.
yeah, it is, and he's a player that we've seen moments from, but we need to see more of it. And again, that's the key, right? That he's the next generation, not generation necessarily, but he's the next tier
He
of
is.
youth.
I mean, yeah, he is the next
Yeah,
generation. Yeah.
yeah, a player that's going to come up potentially, right? And that's one thing that now we have to kind of keep an eye on a little bit. Like who's coming in next, right? Like this group here still has in my opinion, the remainder of this cycle and the next cycle, and then that's it, right? You can't hold on to them into their, mid to later 30s. They're not Tim Ream, right? You just, you can hold on to one or two of them maybe, but you can't hold on to the whole group, right? And then obviously Reina has another one after that. Um,
Yeah,
I mean,
Reina and Musa definitely have at least two
right,
more
right,
after this if they're healthy and
right.
playing.
If healthy, all those other things, but age wise, they have that piece of it, and so I think that's the key to that in general. So we'll see. It's good to live in the now, but it's obviously good to kind of watch what's coming as well. It's easy with the women to do that because they don't most of them don't play at the youth level. Um, the men's a little challenging. Sometimes you have to kind of pick and choose,
Yeah.
what you follow on that.
All right. Well, those are our predictions and resolutions for the USMNT, US Women's National Team, and US Soccer for 2026. Thomas, they can follow your work on chasing a cup, but do you have anything dropping in the near future?
I don't right now. I've got a couple that are kind of sitting until we get to a little bit closer. One's based on snubs, and I can't. Oh, the other one is more just like a U.S. retrospective of the World Cup, kind of when the men have played in that. So those will
Love
come
it.
probably a little bit closer to the World Cup. Yeah, if you have any ideas, drop me a direct message or tweet me or whatever, and I'll do some research or whatever. Sometimes they come quickly, and sometimes they grind out. So it's uh it's fun.
Hmm.
I haven't had anything hit me recently that I'm itching to do. So yeah, hit me up.
You can catch me on the Soccer Down Here morning show every Monday at 10 a.m. That's on Soccer Down Here on Twitch and Twitter and all the places. So don't miss that. You can follow Thomas on Twitter at USKiefer. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Soccer for Us Pod. For Thomas, I'm Bart. I'm out.